Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jared. Today, I want to go over pricing discussion. So you meet a seller, you do your step one, you do your step two, you do your full listing presentation, and afterwards, it's time to discuss pricing, what to set the house, list price for. I just want to kind of go over some best tips that I do. There's lots of different ways to, talk about pricing. I'll just give you kind of what I do, when I'm sitting down with the seller. So first, you have to have a good presentation, right? So you go over your presentation, you go over your marketing plan, you set expectations, but it starts with knowing the doors presentation and doing it well. Once you do that, you're going to build some trust. Okay. If you don't build trust throughout the process, throughout the step one, throughout the step two, which is the doors listing presentation, it's going to be real hard to have that pricing discussion because there might be a lot of objections. So when you're doing that presentation, it's got to be a good presentation, and you need to uh, basically set aside. They should be two separate things. Marketing plan, right? Do you want to hire me to market your house? And then we'll talk about pricing. But you need to get through those objections through that presentation before you talk about pricing. Okay. So pricing should not be the reason why you do or do not get a listing. It starts with the marketing plan. So you make sure you capture those objections as they come. You take them, you isolate them, and you address them. That way, when you do have that pricing discussion, there's a level of trust where they think you're the expert because you are. So you're going to always do the pricing discussion at the end, and it starts with setting expectations. So when you speak with that seller over the phone for that first time, it's really important to set the expectations of what you're going to do. And a lot of times, if they know the process, they're going to go along with it. They're not going to try to pressure you into giving them a price over the phone or in that first visit. So it starts with setting those good expectations. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the best way I can help you is I need to go take a quick tour of your house. Okay. You'll have the chance to meet me. I'll have the chance to meet you. We'll go over some of your expectations, your timeline, what you're looking to do. And then with that, I'll have everything I need after I tour the house to come back to my office, prepare a detailed price trend analysis and a detailed marketing plan that's going to accomplish your home goals. When would be a good time for that initial meeting? And then we'll set up that second meeting when we meet. Does that make sense? So when you set those expectations, they're going to go along for the ride. They're going to follow the process that you want to do, which is a two-step process, right? A two-visit process, three steps, two visits. So you're going to set those expectations. And when you're having a discussion on price, it's not sales, right? They don't want you to be a salesman to try to convince them to set a certain price. It's more about education. Okay, they want to know the process, and I always like to go over the price trend analysis, but also tell the story of how a buyer might make an appointment to see their house. So what I kind of say is, all right, here's the price trend analysis. As you can see on the bottom, the recommended price is X, but now let's get into the details. And I go over the market absorption rate, how many homes are on the market. When I talk about how many homes on the market, I tell them, listen, not all houses are the same, right? And the comps that I used on this price trend analysis, some of them are not, the perfect comp. And I had to make some adjustments to the price based on, these comparable sales. And I also talk about the active listings. And I talk about how if somebody was interested in making an appointment and looking at your home, what other homes might they look at and what other homes might they consider buying? And in my opinion, I'm not a real estate appraiser, that would be a potential comparable sale if I had limited options. And a lot of times that takes away some of the objections of, hey, that house isn't like mine. Hey, my house is more updated. Hey, I have a high ranch and you use the split. Maybe there's limited comps and you had to do that. So it takes away some of that because you're already addressing the fact that none of these comps are perfect and we have to make adjustments based on that. So I like to tell the story. Um, they want notes. So what if I were to tell you that, I'm going to go over this presentation, watch this video, and I'm going to give you my notes at the end. It feels like you're getting something. So a lot of times I will prepare notes where it is a deliverable, right? It's a customer deliverable in a Word doc or something like that. You could use ChatGPT and actually say, hey, this price trend analysis gives a summary of all the information that I use to determine the best pricing strategy, but I'm also going to give you my notes, and they feel like they're getting something, and they are. And it tells the story on how you got to that pricing recommendation. And again, if you set those expectations and you build trust, they're going to go along for the ride. So once I go over that price trend analysis, I'm going to ask them, so how does this price align with what your thoughts were? And some might say it's right on the money of what I thought. It's a little low, it's a little high, whatever it might be. And then a lot of times I'm going to let them know, listen, you're the boss. You're going to set the price on what you want. But it's my job to educate you. It's my job to give you all the material and all the data. That way you make the best decision on what the pricing is going to be. But at the end of the day, you're the boss. I also don't like setting the price right there and then. So most sellers, and sometimes there's a seller ready to list, ready to put on the market immediately. But for the most part, even if a seller is looking to sell relatively fast, they still might be a week or two out. So if they like my marketing plan, I'm not going to let pricing be the reason they don't sign. So one of the things that I always go over, and it's again not sales, it's good advice, is listen, this is the pricing recommendation right now. We're 2 weeks out from listing, or we're 1 month out from listing. We're not going to set the price right now. And when you are ready and we do the photos and we're maybe a day or two before putting it live on the market, at that point, we're going to go into MLS and we're going to look at what active houses are on the market. What's your active competition? So if somebody was interested in buying your house, we got to identify what other homes they might be considering. And let's look at the photos. Let's look at the property. Let's look at the price and determine the best price that we're going to ask based on the active competition. And I say it to them, we might be higher than them. We might look at these two houses and say they're real similar. The same buyer would be interested in your house and these two others, but we have an updated kitchen that is far better than those. Let's be higher than that listing. Some of them you might say we're going to be slightly below. And usually when I have that discussion with the seller, it makes total sense, right? What's your active competition at that time? We might be higher, we might be lower, we might try to match that house. And it takes away the objection on price because you're sort of punting it to when it's appropriate. You don't want to set a price when you're 3-4 weeks out of listing a house. So it takes away that, and you go back to the marketing plan. Do you want to hire me to market your house? Okay, it's my job to get as many feet in the door as possible. I don't set the sales price, right? The market does. A home is worth what someone's willing to pay for it, and it's my job to get maximum exposure and get as many feet in the door as possible, and the market's going to decide what the pricing is going to be. But we're going to have that discussion 2 weeks from now to see what other homes are on the market. And it works every time because, again, it's good advice. It's not sales, it's good advice. So tell a story. Well, first set expectations, right? Set the expectations on what your process is, and they're going to go along for it. You have to have a really good presentation for your marketing plan that really outlines what you're going to do to bring that maximum exposure. And then you're going to have your pricing discussion, but it's going to be more of a story, right? There's a lot of good communicators that talk about storytelling and to use examples. And if you have examples, maybe give them notes, right? I don't think most sellers don't want the details of every single comparable sale you use down to I don't know what the age of the kitchen is. They want the story. They want to know what's going on. They want to know the data, and they want to know what the house is going to sell for. But a lot of times when you build that trust, they're going to go along for the ride. But you definitely want to tell the story of what that buyer out there that's going to buy their house, what's their shopping experience like? What other homes might they be shopping for? Identify a few houses that you say, if somebody was interested in your house, they would probably be interested in these as well. Where do you think our house lines up in comparison to those? And it's a discussion, right? And ultimately, when you let them know that they're the boss and they have the control to set that listing price, it takes away that potential objection, and it goes back to the marketing plan. Do you want to hire me to market the house? Great. Let's get it signed up. Price, we're going to put to be decided, and we're going to have that discussion after photos when we're a few days before. So I hope this helps. It definitely, I met with a lot of sellers over the years, and I don't think I've ever lost a listing based on pricing because I don't make it an issue. Okay. Now, when you do have that discussion, and maybe there's a big discrepancy on what you think it's going to sell for, that's going to be another conversation for them, and you're going to want to fall back on the data and say, based on all this information that I provided to you, what makes you think that your house could support a list price like this? But at the end of the day, you're not going to get too many objections because you're setting those expectations early. You're providing a pricing strategy and a pricing recommendation, and you have a pretty good idea right there if it aligns with what they're thinking. But don't make it an issue on why they should sign or not sign with you. Back to the marketing plan, good presentation, build trust, and you're going to be okay. Hope this helps, and reach out if you have any questions.